Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Kirsty and this is Stuck in the Mud. As always, if you're finding my content helpful, please remember to like the videos and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. In today's video, I want to talk about probably one of the biggest breakthroughs in my OCD and anxiety recovery journey. Because having gone through OCD and anxiety for my whole life, 40 plus years, I've tried pretty much everything in terms of getting better. But then some years ago, I met a new therapist and she basically changed everything for me. And I've learned so much from her that it really helped me with my recovery. And this is why I want to do these videos, because I want to pass on that knowledge to you guys and hopefully help you with your recovery, because I've learned so many important things that are vital to recovery from this disorder. We often have automatic thoughts. We don't have that conscious awareness of the thoughts popping up in our head, and we often jump on them and we're like trying to pull them apart, trying to figure them out. And this is really a big part of OCD. We don't always have that conscious awareness and we think it just happens and what am I going to do about this? I'm so far down the rabbit hole and I'm just, I'm overwhelmed. Like, how can I stop these thoughts? How are they going to get better? Because they just seem to pick up pace. They get bigger and stronger and they just take over. And we just can't see an end to that when we're, in the thick of it. And I've been there many times. I really sympathize with anyone going through this. But the truth is, yes, they are automatic in terms of we get thoughts. We can't stop those. We can't control them at all. But we can do something about the thinking aspect. And we don't always realize that requires effort on our part when we actually involve ourselves with these intrusive, unwanted thoughts. But we do have it in our power to resist these intrusive thoughts by not engaging with them and taking a step back, viewing it as an event in the mind. We can't control these thoughts that come in, but we can stop the actual thinking part, which is difficult at first. I'm not going to say this is easy, because it isn't, especially if for so long we have had those automatic thoughts and we haven't had that conscious awareness of them. And it does take a shift in our focus, the way we interact and engage with these thoughts, because the least involvement, the better. This is what I really wanted to talk about in today's video. The pivotal change that I had to make to get better. And I don't want to blame or shame anyone with this, because none of this is your fault. It really isn't. OCD is a disorder. And as a sufferer myself, I know how debilitating it is and how devastating it can be to suffer from. I do think there's a biological element there that we inherit. It's in our genetic makeup. And our environmental factors can trigger the OCD in us, the OCD and anxiety. But we can actually change our behavior, because although, like I said, we might not have that conscious awareness at first, but when we can shift our focus and actually recognize our behavior, the things we're actually doing, our safety-seeking behaviors, trying to neutralize these thoughts, whether that be through rumination or carrying out a physical ritual, that we try to feel better. We just want to feel better. We don't want to feel so heavy with all these intrusive thoughts. And I do think there is some, like I said, some faulty wiring there, and we kind of miss that rational link that people without OCD have. People without OCD have intrusive, unwanted thoughts, but they can rationalize it and discard it as quick as that. Whereas we will get the intrusive thought, but we don't always have that conscious awareness to actually stop the thinking part and actually just let it fizzle out on its own. And we have one job. One job is that it's not to make it worse. That's the only thing we have to do. And the earlier on we can do that, the easier it is. Because once we go down that rabbit hole and it just gets all so tangled and confusing, because our brain is just like trying to figure everything out and trying to come to some kind of conclusion, some kind of certainty to make ourselves feel at peace. We're always trying to dip into our memories, what happened there, what does this say about me, what's going on? And it's just a never-ending cycle, and we can get so caught up in that. But we can rewire our brain. We can change our behaviour. And it takes a lot of commitment and a lot of patience, because it's not always easy at first. It's very up and down. We're going to have a lot of setbacks along the way, but it's most definitely doable from someone who's been there, like in the bleak times of OCD with all kinds of subtypes. Notably, probably a really bad one for me was false memory. And, I was really in a dark, terrible place with it. And I couldn't see a way back from that. But here I am actually trying to help other people on their path to recovery, because I know it's achievable. And the main thing that changed for me was bringing my awareness to my thoughts. And like I said, we don't always think that's possible to kind of stop that chain of thoughts that spiral out of control. But this is different from, we're not obsessively monitoring our thoughts, because that is important as well. Because with this, you can often slip into I need to obsessively watch every single thought that comes into my head. And that is not what we're doing here. We just bring that relaxed awareness to our thoughts. Once we realize we're getting caught up in a thought, we can think, oh, hold on a minute. Yeah, I know what's happening here. I'm going down that rabbit hole. It's okay. I don't need to get involved with that. I can let it be there. And letting it be there is not ignoring it. I've said this in many other videos. We're not ignoring it or pushing it away. We're just letting it coexist. And it will fizzle out on its own, because we're teaching our brain here some important things. We're teaching our brain that we don't have to be running away from this. We're not running scared. We're not trying to escape it somehow. We just let it reside there with us, and it will, sometimes it'll take a bit of time, and you're going to feel uncomfortable letting it be there, because our first response is to kind of get involved and try and figure it out and try and come to some kind of resolution or certainty that way. But we know, anyone that's had OCD knows, it's just, it's not going to work, because OCD just wants your attention, and it's going to try any which way to get that. It'll just have you questioning everything. So we let it be there. We have as least involvement with it as possible. Any thought is allowed. We can't control the thoughts. They pop in our head. Our brain does that. Our brain just generates thoughts all day long. We can't help that, but we can do something about the thinking. So having that awareness was a big breakthrough for me in my recovery, because once I got hold of that and I could think, yep, I'm getting involved there. It's really starting to get its hooks into me, that particular thought. Before it spirals out of control, I can go, okay, I know it's there. It can do its thing. I will let it be there, and I'll move forward with my day. Like I said, it's not always a comfortable thing to do, because our initial response would be, oh, I need to figure it out, or I need to do this ritual. I need to count so many objects in the house to neutralize that thought, or protect me, make myself feel better, or that I'm not a bad person. I have to tap something so many times, which is something I did when I was younger, or I had to stand up and sit down again, trying to make myself feel better. And the truth is, none of it worked. It just taught my brain that, I'm unsafe and I need to do all these things to make myself feel better. And that intrusive thought just kept popping back in, because our brain's like, well, this must be important. I need to hang on to that for dear life, because, it's obviously an important thought if I'm doing all this around it. Do you see what I'm saying here? So our brain will latch onto it and just keep tight grip on it, and it'll just feel stronger, because we're so involved with it, and it'll get so powerful. And that's why we get so anxious about it, and we feel so much panic, because it just grows and grows and it gets bigger. It just snowballs. But when we let it be there, and we just let it sit there, we're not pushing it away, we're just letting it be there and be like, okay, you can do your thing, as passive as possibly, as least involvement, any thought can be there. It will fade on its own, in its own time. And at first it may take a little time, and you said you'll feel that discomfort in your body, maybe a pit in the pit of your stomach. That's where I usually feel it with anxiety. And you'll find that those feelings will disappear as well, because our brain is realizing this is fine. I don't need to hold on to this. This is just not a nonsense thought it's just a nothing thought, And I don't want people to feel like, because I think as an OCD sufferer, you feel like, well, I mustn't be a good person if I'm not thinking about this, because obviously I care, I'm a good person, if I was a good person, I'd think about this. And, that's just another way of OCD trying to keep you in its loop, trying to keep you going round and round. It's just, OCD is just trying to lure you in all the time. And like I said, it'll try any which way to do that. And it'll just try and make you feel bad for not doing the rumination, not doing that ritual. And, this goes the same for everything. So intrusive thoughts, intrusive images, that urge we get, that urgency to carry out a ritual, the sensations we feel in the body, all the emotions we feel alongside it, the guilt, the shame, the anxiety, the panic, all those feelings that we feel, it's the same for that. We do the same approach with all of it. We let it be there. And it took me a long time to grasp that. But once I got it, I realized that just having that awareness over those feelings, the thoughts, and I could do something about that. It's not impossible, but it does take practice and consistency, which once you dedicate yourself to getting better, and like I said, we've had enough of this. It's gone on too long. It's robbed me of so much of my life, and it's controlled me so much. I don't want to live that way anymore. And why should you? So I really hope this video goes to prove that, there is a difference between, thoughts that we can't control to thinking that we can do something about, and just having that awareness can make all the difference. So thank you for watching today, and I will see you in the next video.